The Denver Broncos took the field today for their first official practice of training camp 2025, and Courtland Sutton was in attendance. What does it mean for his upcoming contract negotiations? And should Sean Payton bring back a former Bronco to bolster the arsenal of weapons around Bo Nix? All things to come on today's rundown, but we will begin in the NFL, where the Denver Broncos joined the litany of NFL teams around the country who are reporting for their first official practice of training camp 2025 around the NFL. And one of the more intriguing and important figures of this year's Denver's Broncos team was in attendance and participating in practice. Two very important distinctions there, as I have, of course, talking about the wide receiver, Courtland Sutton, who went through some theatrics and dramatics last offseason due to contract-related disputes with the team, ultimately gets a reworked, revised deal that is juiced with a couple $1 million more in incentives, about $1.5 million more, all of which he hit, finalizing and culminating in the Week 18 game against Kansas City, where he earned an additional $500,000 and maxing out his total income potential for the 2024 season. Well, there was reporting and conversation about if Courtland Sutton and his agreement with the team last year was to juice the incentives and say, hey, go ahead and prove this to us this season, and next season we will take care of you and revisit some things. We have reached that point in last year's agreement as we stand on the doorstep of the 2025 NFL season. The difference between last offseason and this offseason is that it has been very, very quiet on the contract negotiation front with both the Denver Broncos and Courtland Sutton. And it is pretty clear that it is intentionally so in that regard. Sutton has not been vocal with the media and or on social media as he was last offseason, posting gifs of Will Smith as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air looking around in an empty room and talking at other events not related to the Broncos about such contract negotiations. None of that has taken place this year. He had his own event at Coors Field for charity where he did not speak on the subject. As a team captain, he has not spoken during any of the OTAs, mandatory minicamp, or now introductory training camp press conferences up to this point. But he did take the field today. And he was not, in that regard, a holdout like he threatened to be last offseason, nor was he a hold-in where he reported but did not participate in practice activities, as our own Zach Bai and Andrew Mason and Will Peterson, Anilo Piro, and others posted on social media to report that Sutton was live on the field, running routes and taking reps in various drills, participating in the practice, which tends to make me believe that his negotiations with the Denver Broncos are going well. He is not disgruntled or displeasured by the nature of those negotiations up to this point, and that a deal should be coming in the near future between he and the Denver Broncos. The details of that deal between length, average annual value per year, and total amount guaranteed, etc., who knows where that will lead? And I think that is the widest range and topic of conversation as it relates to Courtland Sutton. But my guess is those will be coming in the near future. And I will say this as it relates to Courtland Sutton. His presence at practice today and his activity on the field, participating in drills, beyond just showing up and preventing himself from being classified as a holdout or hold-in, is a very positive sign and a step toward the healthy dynamic in the locker room with this team heading into 2025 between the player, Courtland Sutton, and the organization, with the Walton Penner ownership group and the front office headed by Sean and George Payton. And I think that even though the Denver Broncos may not want to extend high wide receiver money or even upper middle wide receiver money to a receiver in Courtland Sutton who is on the back nine, certainly, of his NFL career, he is someone who has proven to be vital to this team's offensive success under almost any quarterback that has taken snaps during his tenure here, which began in 2018. And Bo Nix's connection with Courtland Sutton, as evidenced by the 135 targets and almost 1,100 yards with 8 touchdowns production, shows that he is a valuable member of this team and should be paid to maintain his connection with Bo Nix for at least a couple more years until they can find someone else to replicate that production. And that ultimately is the crux of this argument. Courtland Sutton may not be considered a wide receiver one by general NFL parlance. He may not be the wide receiver one on a number of teams in the NFL, maybe even within the AFC West, but he is the number one receiver here in Denver. And the production that he has been tagged with is evidence of that. His connection with Bo Nix and Russell Wilson before him, and the list goes on, is proof that he is a valuable asset to a quarterback and to a team that is looking to ascend to the top of the AFC, at a minimum of the AFC West. And it is the Broncos themselves that put themselves in this position to have to quandary paying Courtland Sutton and ponder whether or not that's worth it and at what dollar amount that is worth, because they did not do enough to try to replace that production elsewhere. They drafted Pat Bryant as a third-round rookie out of Illinois, but he is not someone who I think is largely, or should be largely, considered a Courtland Sutton replacement in year one. The wide receiver 2 conversation between Marvin Mims and Devon Bailey right now, Devon Bailey is probably closer to that, but as a 7th-round rookie, that's a pretty risky bet in and of itself. And then you factor in, they brought in Evan Ingram in free agency, who plays tight end and cannot be the same presence on the field that Courtland Sutton is. They didn't go out and get a Keenan Allen or someone else in free agency who, at a minimum, even though he's an aging receiver himself, would replace somewhat of that Courtland Sutton level production. So the fact that Courtland Sutton is playing ball right now on the first day of true practice for the Broncos training camp in 2025, I think is a positive sign and a step toward the direction of those negotiations. And I do believe that even though the Broncos may have to overpay for the services of Courtland Sutton inside the next 2 years or maybe 3-year window, that is the position that they put themselves in. And I think that they recognize that and realize that, because if they didn't, I don't think we see Courtland Sutton take the field today and not be a hold-in or a holdout the way that it was kind of threatened or premised that it would be in 2024. And I do expect that those conversations will progress and we will see a deal with Courtland Sutton before the start of the preseason, let alone the NFL season. Obviously, as things change and fluctuate, we could see that happen, but I think Courtland Sutton's presence on the field today is a great step toward that direction. We got interesting news in the last week or so, about the last handful of days, frankly, about a former Denver Bronco who was released by his current team that was the Seattle Seahawks, and that is Noah Fant, the former 20th overall pick by the Denver Broncos. They trade back from the 10th overall pick with the Steelers, who end up selecting Devin Bush, and the Broncos select the tight end out of Iowa, who was kind of projected to be the latest man to step up and try to replace the Julius Thomas level production that we saw from those Broncos teams of the early 2010s under Peyton Manning. From a skill set standpoint and a body standpoint, he totally seemed to fit that bill, but it just never quite materialized and connected. We mentioned Noah Fant on yesterday's show, where I proposed the idea that Noah Fant's ceiling as a Denver Bronco, where he had about 68 receptions for 670 yards and 4 touchdowns, right around that 90 target window. That, to me, given the importance of the Joker role in Sean Payton's offense and Evan Ingram being brought in to play that part, Evan Ingram's floor as a Denver Bronco, even in year one, to me, I would think should feel like the ceiling of what we got from Noah Fant as a Denver Bronco that never fully materialized beyond that. We will see if he can live up to that billing. But with Fant, who was a part of the infamous Russell Wilson trade, along with Drew Lock and Shelby draft picks now being released by the Seahawks, the opportunity does at least present itself for Noah Fant to be brought back into a tight end room that now is headed by Evan Ingram and features Lucas Kroll, Adam Troutman, and Nate Atkins. So the question being, could Noah Fant and would Noah Fant be a good addition to a tight end room and supplement and provide more production than the rest of the room beneath Evan Ingram? And to that, I would say this. No, I do not think that Noah Fant is a worthy addition to this tight end room because we have seen it play out before, albeit with probably less talent and certainly less stability at the quarterback position, head coach position, coordinator position, etc. I just think that ship has probably sailed. And I think that if Sean Payton felt like Noah Fant as a younger option was better than Evan Ingram, they could have probably proposed a trade with the Seattle Seahawks to bring a player back without really giving up a lot of draft capital or valuable assets, because clearly Seattle was ready to part ways with this guy at the next possible opportunity. There is something about the Noah Fant conversation with him being released and the possibility of him returning to the Broncos that I do find interesting, though. This Broncos tight end room beneath Evan Ingram is still leaving a lot to be desired. I know that Evan Ingram, as the Joker, certainly provides a flashier face and a higher ceiling of production than what we saw from Nate Atkins, Adam Troutman, and Lucas Kroll. But we are one underwhelming season with Evan Ingram, or, knock on wood, anything were to happen to the new Broncos tight end in the injury realm, from realizing that this tight end room is just as underwhelming as it was last year. So while I don't think that bringing Noah Fant into that room significantly changes the quality of depth or the experience all that much, because Noah Fant is limited and one-sided in certain aspects of his playing style as well, in the same way that Adam Troutman and Lucas Kroll and Nate Atkins may be one-sided on the other side of that coin. But the prospect and the conversation of bringing Noah Fant back, while I disagree with it and don't think it would be a worthwhile move for the Broncos to try to dip their toe back into that pool, it does show to me that outside of Evan Ingram, this is the exact same tight end room that we all know and remember and were underwhelmed with in 2025, which further cranks up the pressure on a guy like Evan Ingram in his first year with the Denver Broncos in Sean Payton's offense that can be difficult and complex to try to grasp for a lot of players. It does put a lot more pressure on that guy to come in and perform right away in 2025, perhaps even to the tune of Noah Fant's ceiling, like I mentioned yesterday, as a Denver Bronco, flirting with 700 yards and 4 to 5 touchdowns on about 70 catches in a single season. We will see how it all shakes out. I don't anticipate a move coming for Noah Fant and the Denver Broncos, but I was intrigued by the thought exercise and thought process that started to unfold as we unwrapped that conversation. We will continue to monitor everything going on at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, as training camp continues to roll on, and we will see many other training camp battles start to unfold as they do every year. The one we will probably focus on tomorrow has to deal with the 2 running backs who will be vying for a starting job in a room that simply no one could grasp hold of in 2024. We will monitor the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche as they continue their march through the offseason. Maybe there will be more drama that pops up around Jonas Valanciunas and Panathinaikos. Maybe we will see more development of Curtis Jones, the player who they used their final 2-way contract on, the undrafted rookie out of Iowa State who shined alongside Deron Holmes in Summer League this past month, and the Colorado Rockies, who signed Ethan Holiday to a high schooler record $9 million signing bonus, about $300,000 above what he was slotted for as a top 5 pick in the MLB draft. So many things to keep tabs on, and we will have it all here for you on the rundown at DenverSports.com and on Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at Denver Sports 104.3, at DEN Sports 104.3, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.